It's always just between us, all right?
Welcome into Between Us on 938 Live. I'm Angela Lim. Great to have you with us. As always, we're sharing inspiring stories that matter to you. And speaking of inspiring, we have three very wonderful people here in the studio today to tell us a bit more about Day Spring Residential Treatment and Transition Home. Of course, my first guest is Catherine, who is a resident there, and she's currently recovering as well from a variety of issues, including an eating disorder, and also she's going to tell us more about what her experience has been like working with the great people here at Day Spring. My second guest is Kim Lang Khalil, who's Director of Day Spring Residential Treatment and Transition Home, and my third guest, Christella Lowe, who's counsellor with Day Spring. Great to have you here with us today, guys.
Hi.
Let's start a little bit with Kim Lang, because we want to know a little bit more about what Day Spring does. Basically, you reach out to many youths who are at risk on some level, especially the women. Tell us more about the girls that come to the center.
Well, when we were set up in 2011, we have a vision to bring girls who have experienced a trauma or abuse. The abuse can come in the form of physical, psychological, or even sexual abuse. So this treatment center kind of set out a program so that the girls can make peace with the past and also find purpose for the present and renew hope for their future. So for the past 3.5 years when we set up this center, we see girls who have different kind of symptoms have come to us, and we work with a whole team of passionate ladies. We kind of bring them through some program, and about a month ago, we kind of moved to a bigger premise, because after 3 years of working with them, the girls who have gone through the program have gone back home. We find that we need another longer time for them to transit home. So we set up this bigger, move to this bigger premise to have a transition home.
Sounds good. And benefiting from that as well is Catherine today, who's here with us to share her personal experience going through the processes that you guys put her through in the home. Tell us first a little bit, Kim Lang, about how you got to know about Catherine in her case.
Well, Catherine, when she was with us, when she came to us, she was a very quiet girl, and she has a emotionless face, a poker face without any emotions. And it took a while for us to get to know her, and I can just see the transformation in her and the courage she has gone through this recovery journey. And she has finished the program. She graduated last year, and then now she is with us in a transition program, waiting to be reunited back to her family.
Right, and speaking of which, none of that poker face and quietness now, because we are speaking to Catherine, and she's definitely full of life and very, very smiley and bubbly. Catherine, tell us more about yourself, and tell us first of all about the abuse that you went through, which is why you got to Day Springs to begin with.
Hello. I think I had the abuse for a while. It was mostly physical, and ever since young, I'm staying at home. Then I had some physical abuse. Like, it was more of a discipline action, but I think it was kind of extreme.
Would you be able to share about what actually happened with these beatings, or what was it that you were subjected to at that time?
Oh yeah, it was mostly beatings, like throwing of stuffs, as a way of disciplining us.
Okay. Did you realize that there was something that was a little bit off about it? Because eventually you did get help from Day Springs, but at that time, did you know that there were ways to get help? There were people to talk to? Did you have anyone to turn to at that time?
No, I don't think so, because I was rarely out. I don't know what's the norm like outside. I didn't feel that this is not normal. I thought it was normal. I didn't know there's such thing as counselors and what's their role. So I'm mostly at home, and I thought this was a normal life.
When you went to school, was there anything were the teachers there, noticing things about you that were not right? Is it something that was difficult for you to share about?
No, I knew I wasn't supposed to say it. At that time, I didn't ask why. I didn't know why I didn't have that thought. At school, for a period of time, my teacher didn't happen to see anything, but I think there was once, it just happened that they were questioning me, and somehow the topic about me being beaten got up. Like, it came to that point, and I just share it openly, not knowing that it's not right and everything. That's how it all ended up.
Right, so almost quite by accident you realize that, wow, all this time you've been subjected to abuse. The idea of abuse never even occurred to you before this.
Yeah.
Also, apart from the abuse, you actually suffered from an eating disorder as well. Tell us about your anorexia.
Oh, that was quite a while after the abuse. After the abuse, I was sent to another hostel, and the late December, around November, December, when I was 12, I started having this thinking that I have to be perfect. Yeah, and it slowly started off from there. Then when I was secondary 1, 13, I grew this obsession that it has to be perfect, that my life from this year in secondary school has to be perfect. And that's how it all started. I got this thinking that, I have to be thin in order to be perfect. And yeah.
At the start, when you first told yourself this, that you had to be perfect, where do you think the pressure came from? You just wanted to be the best person, or where do you think it came from?
I'm not so sure, but I know that I wanted control. I wanted to have full control over my whole life, and I think I didn't feel I had one. Yeah.
We're going to talk a little bit more as well about Catherine's anorexia, and also how that manifested in how it harms her health, and eventually how she got help from Day Springs and the good people there. We're going to hear a little bit more from my 3 guests today. Kim Langkalu, Director of Day Spring Residential Treatment and Transition Home. Christella Lowe is a counsellor at Day Spring, as well as Catherine herself sharing her personal story of growth and transformation. We're going to hear more in just a bit on Between Us. Stay tuned.
Reset your relationships in Between Us. Our soulful encounter is always just between us on 938 Live.
Empowering women who've been through abuse and also youths at risk. The people from Day Spring are here today to tell us a little bit more about what they do. Starting, of course, with Catherine, who we've been chatting with. Also, Kim Langkalu is Director of Day Spring Residential Treatment and Transition Home. And Christella Lowe, who's a counsellor at Day Spring, will tell us a bit more about some of the stories that they've encountered working with these girls. But first of all, Catherine, you were earlier telling us a bit about how you started getting anorexia. That fixation with being perfect was what triggered it. How bad did it get to the point where, how did it manifest in your everyday life, for example?
Firstly, it started, it was slow. Nobody realized it for quite a while. It started in November. It was gradually just normal cutting down, and a little bit more exercise. And when I was going to secondary school, when schedules got tight and packed and everything, it just allows me to skip my meals, and whenever I had the opportunity, I'll exercise, like extreme exercise.
For example, on a daily basis, at the worst part of your condition, what are some examples of a daily diet and exercise regime?
When I was in school, breakfast, I would take my food to school, but then I would throw it on my way to school, and then I would not eat. Sometimes I would just have a bite to have a proof, like when I'm in the hostel, and then I would just leave without eating at all. And
you said you exercised very excessively. What does that look like for a daily sort of exercise regime?
Because my hostel used to be on the top of the hill, so after school, when I get back from school, my bag will be very heavy, and I walk up and down around 3 to 5 laps. Steep slope. Sometimes with an empty stomach, sometimes with just a yogurt. And I don't drink water at all. I never felt thirsty.
Oh dear. Okay, so that obviously must have done quite a lot of damage to your health. But at that time, it sounded, Catherine, like you took quite a lot of effort to make sure people don't notice or didn't notice that something was wrong. But did anyone find that, hey, how come you're losing so much weight, or how come it seems like you never ate anything? Were there people who noticed that?
Gradually over time, but for a long period, not really, because it's kind of compulsory to come back home for dinner But even during dinner time, I've cut down a lot. But I still consume food, so nobody seems to think that's a problem. And even with my small amount of food on the plate, I still throw away and hide and manage to get away with it. Yeah, so people thought I still at least consume enough food. Yeah. And
in that case, what was the turning point, when you realized that, you needed to get help, or when actually someone stepped up and said, hey, we need to get you into treatment? Was there a point like that?
Not for my previous hostel. For a long period of time, even when I was at Day Spring, I still denied the fact that I had an eating disorder. It was when I was running and I had a fall, and it was quite a bad fall because my face and hands and everywhere got scar. And then I was sent to the hospital. Like, they wanted to do a spine check to make sure that I had no internal injuries.
Oh dear.
And upon registration, they realized my blood pressure and heart rate was very low, like detrimentally low. So they admitted me, and that was how my eating disorder was first recognized.
And we're also going to find out more about how Catherine has managed to fight that. And, in a lot of ways, the people at Day Spring has also provided support, not just for this eating disorder, but also for the abuse that you went through, Catherine. We're going to hear in just a bit from Christella Low, who's counsellor at Day Spring. Also from Kim Lang Khalil, who joins us today as director of Day Spring Residential Treatment and Transition Home. All three will tell us more in just a bit after headline news and sports. Stay tuned here at 938 Live.
Man is a knot into which relationships are tied, but nothing comes between us. On 938 Live. It's always just between us, all right?
Thanks for staying tuned to Between Us and 938 Live, chatting with the lovely people from Day Spring Residential Treatment and Transition Home, where they offer support and encouragement as well as great help to girls who've been through either abuse or have also got other issues that they are struggling with at the same time. In the studio today, Catherine has been sharing her story so far about how she's overcome or is currently still trying to overcome an eating disorder as well as an abusive past as well. We're going to hear a little bit more from Catherine about what she wants to say to other people in just a bit. In the meantime, I'm going to talk to two of my other guests. Kim Lang Khalil is director of Day Spring Residential Treatment and Transition Home, and Christella Low is a counsellor with Day Spring. And right now I want to bring Christella into the conversation because you work very closely with so many girls just like Catherine. What are some of the common things you've found or discovered about what needs to be done for girls who have been abused and who just come to seek treatment?
Okay. A lot of the girls that we have come in with a lot of behavioral problems. So like for Catherine, it was like an eating disorder. And we have a lot of other girls who also, they're very aggressive or they're very maybe suicidal. And I think one thing to remember about abuse is that these behaviors, usually there is an underlying reason and an underlying function. And one of the cases that has really impacted me was this girl who had been sexually abused. And when she first came, she was really hopeless, really depressed. She would tell me that she would want to die at 4:44 p.m. And then she would hose herself down with the hose and say that she feels very dirty. She wants to throw herself down the stairs and things like that. And so I think these behaviors, they don't just pop out from nowhere. It came about because of the abuse that has caused her to believe that maybe she's dirty or she's worthless or she has a lot of shame. Yeah.
As someone who works very closely with these girls, and in this particular case, especially Christella, what would your initial reaction be? What do you think they actually really need, not just from counselors, but from everyone around them?
I think a lot of trust has been broken between those who have been abused and people in general. So I think the first thing in trauma and recovery is safety, establishing safety. So I think our model is very relational. So we build a lot of trust with our girls. So we tell them that, you are safe here now. You're not in a place where you can be abused anymore. And we build these relationships with them. So we have counselors that will see them every week, but we also have mentors who act as value coaches as well to the girls. So each girl that comes, there's a team, a care team of a counselor and a values coach. who would really care for each girl.
The
Yeah.
trust is definitely really important, and I guess that would be the biggest challenge as well, because a lot of the girls come in very angry and very resistant to other people. I want to get Catherine's view on this, because when you first came into Dayspring, did you feel it was difficult to trust your counselor at the start, and how did she kind of break down your walls, so to speak?
Well, yeah, at first it was not easy. I had a lot of trust issue and probably still have a little bit. Yeah, but I guess it takes time. When we started having casual conversation, it does not have to be about our past, our trauma and stuff. Casual conversation, and then we realized that we could rely on that counselor, or we could trust them. Sometimes the people we talk to, the people we trust may depend. It might not necessarily be our counselor, but the mentors there who are helping us. Yeah, it really varies.
And that's definitely an important part of the whole treatment, and of course getting over a lot of the trauma that they've been through. Christella, what does that recovery process look like for a lot of these girls? Once they enter the home, of course, they are in a very safe environment, they are protected. How, in general, how long does it take, or what is involved when it comes to supporting them?
Okay. We have 6 phases in our program, and we actually have them go through different assignments where they will have to take steps to work on some of the issues. So in the first few phases, they will work on a lot of like relaxation techniques, a lot of grounding techniques, and skills to cope with perhaps some of the symptoms of trauma. Yeah, and then as we go along, we will look into like reconnect. What is it? Mourning and remembrance and
remembering of the
mourning.
trauma. So basically, our 6 phases are actually structured into 3 stages. The first stage was safety. Like the first 3 phases are just built up safety. So they come in, they have a structure in which they feel that things are in order. They are morning, afternoon, night. So they feel that it's like, okay, I have something to look forward to. There's a structure that I follow. It gives them a sense of safety, a sense of things are a routine they can look forward to. And then after that, they have the first phase was expectation, then connection with the community. Because the community of staff as well as other residents actually form a very strong foundation in which the girls will feel either safe or not safe. So we do pace the girls that are admitted. We don't admit the same kind of girls that within the few days. We every 2 weeks we will admit one, so that the new girl will get assimilated into the community and feel safe before the next one comes in. So in that sense, after connection, they will discover, the third phase was discovering about their values, different assignments, and then they go into remembering. They will start writing the narration, the story and all that, and the insight. They will have insight, and then the phase 1 was integrity, and then the last phase was interdependent. So I think for Catherine, when she first came, the first few months, I think, she always tell us, well, I don't have any problems. Why? I don't know. I just be here.
A lot of denial.
Yeah, a lot of denial. And maybe she can share with us how she discovered finally that she has issue to work.
And that's definitely coming right up here on Between Us. Catherine's going to share a little bit more about what she's learned and how she's grown as well through this transformation process at Dayspring. We'll continue this conversation in just a bit, so stay tuned on Between Us.
Reset your relationships in Between Us. Our soulful encounter is always just between us on 938 Live.
Thanks for staying tuned to Between Us on 938 Live. My 3 lovely guests from Dayspring: Kim Lang Katlil, director of Dayspring; Christella Low is a counsellor; and of course Catherine, who has been sharing her personal story as a resident there as well. Catherine, earlier, Kim Lang was saying that going through that process, it's really a journey of transformation. What are some of the biggest lessons that you've learned, or looking back at your recovery, what are some things that you've taken away, important lessons?
I think at first I was very much in my own world, despite it takes me quite a few months for me to acknowledge my issues and my problems and stuff. I was actually living my own world despite being in a totally full of people environment. Yeah, I deny myself of having problems. I lie about everything. Yeah, I was just lying about my whole life. So,
how have things changed for you now? I mean, looking at, the life you used to lead, Catherine, looking at yourself now, how do you think that, you've been better? You've managed to come out of it a stronger person?
I think now I feel more real. Like I'm not lying every single time. Yeah, and it's more fun. It's real. It's just yeah, I guess when it's real,
you
it's
relax.
fun.
You're not on edge all the time, thinking, planning, putting on something. You can just be yourself and be happy with who you are.
Because all these lies, there's nothing to be happy about if it's all fake. Yeah.
Definitely a very, very crucial lesson. I think all of us, want to achieve that on some level, authenticity and being genuine with ourselves and with others. So really happy for you, Catherine, that you've managed to find that for yourself. Christella, working with so many of these girls and also, helping them through, walking with them, what are some things you think are very crucial in terms of what the public can do, what all of us can do if we know of incidences like that? How can we support them?
I think it's important to know that there is help available. I think a lot of us don't know what to do when we see the behavioral symptoms, when people are feeling suicidal or are acting aggressively. I think people tend to get thrown off, but there is a lot of help available and we're growing in Singapore. So especially for trauma and abuse, I think research has shown that that when you go through counseling, there are a few different models that has been shown to be proven to help girls with trauma and abuse. So there is help available.
Yeah. And definitely, Day Spring is a great place for people to actually seek that help. And it's very evident by Catherine's own recovery as well. On a final note, Kim Lang, if our listeners want to support this or want to support the cause or, help out girls like Catherine, who can they turn to?
For us, I think in a treatment center, the program itself is good. It's make out people because it's in a context of relationship that this recovery takes place, and therefore we have a lot of staff. Actually, the ratio the ratio of staff to residents is pretty high. So in that sense, it's pretty expensive to run this program. For those who actually need help or who wants to. Depends on the level of help they need. For ours, it's a very more intensive residential treatment, and they can actually, if there are girls who kind of need help, they first of all go to school counselors and all that to seek help, and then they may be able to assess what kind of help is needed. Yeah.
And speaking of the kind of help that you can actually seek, if you know anyone who's currently suffering through a lot of abuse or trauma, you can reach Dayspring at this website, www.dayspring.org.sg. All the details are there about how you can help and how you can chip in to support girls like Catherine as well. Catherine, Christelle and Kim, so great to have all three of you here with me today on Between Us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
This has been Between Us on 938 Live. I'm Angela Lim. Thanks so much for joining us.
Man is a knot into which relationships are tied, but nothing comes between us. On 938 Live.